verbalisms, the dicta in the second column on page 12. Let's see, number 6. Follow the gods and restrain your tongue. Stir not the fire with iron. Why not? Well, why do you think the handle on the tongs you use on the barbecue has wood on it, rather than just picking up iron to take things off the barbecue? You get the idea? You see, reason tells you that there is going to be some sort of clash, some sort of pain if you stir the fire with iron. Reason stakes out the limits. Does those sorts of things. And you can see all sorts of dietary restrictions as you go down the column. 37 and 8, abstain from beans, abstain from living things. For whatever reasons, they have dietary proposals, ruling their lives by reason. Well, all right, Pythagoras. On page, let's see, page 13, Xenophanes was an individual that wasn't included in my list. He's not discussed by Stumpf and is often omitted from discussions of the pre-Socratics, and I think that may be a prejudice created by viewing the Socratics as pre-scientific thinkers, because Xenophanes really doesn't say much about nature at all. So you can hardly think of him as a pre-scientific thinker. So, he's Xenophanes out. But today we're not talking about the pre-Socratics as pre-scientific thinkers, we're thinking of them as ethical thinkers. So what does Xenophanes have to say? Well, notice on the first column on page 13, bottom of the page, he talks about Homer and Hesiod, who ascribes to the gods whatever is infamy and reproach among men. Theft, adultery, deceiving each other. I take that to be more a criticism of the gods than of Homer and Hesiod, who reported on the gods. But what he's doing is pointing out, obviously, that that is the kind of life, theft and adultery and deceiving each other, which needs to be brought under some kind of just control. And yet the gods are guilty of things that men are hanged for every day, you see. And so in contrast to that kind of gods, Xenophanes turns in a loftier direction. He goes on, mortals suppose, that the gods are born and have clothes and voices and shapes like our own. But if oxes and horses and lions had hands and could paint with their hands, and fashion works as men do, they'd paint horse-like images of gods, and the oxen would paint ox-like images of gods, and each would fashion bodies like their own. So the Ethiopians consider the gods flat-nosed and black, the Thracians blue-eyed and red-haired, but there is only one God, among gods and men the greatest, not all like mortals in body or mind. He sees as a whole, thinks as a whole, hears as a whole, and without toil, because there are no opposites in conflict, without toil, he moves everything by just the thought of his mind. He thinks, and it's done. Now there's a conception of a purely rational, immaterial being emerging among the Greeks. What's the point of it? And the point is not some sort of theological or metaphysical speculation. The point is to find an alternative to the debasing conceptions of the gods among the Greeks. One that upholds ordered unity in life, in society, in the cosmos. Everything comes from this one guy. Well, for that reason, Xenophanes is sometimes discussed along with Parmenides, Zeno, and the Eleatics. Remember the absolute monists? They said that everything is one without division, without plurality, without change, as if Xenophanes is pointing in a similar direction. Well, he was not a man of Elia, he was not an Eleatic, he was an independent thinker elsewhere, and his motivation seems to be entirely in terms of this moral vision of cosmic justice. Well, from Xenophanes on 13, turn to Heraclitus. Heraclitus, 15 and following. And you remember I had linked Heraclitus and Pythagoras, suggesting that they're double-aspect monists, two sides to nature, the ordered and the disordered, the change and the permanent ordered unity of things. Well, you find that in Heraclitus. First column towards the bottom of the page, those awake have one ordered universe in common. But in sleep, or all those in sleep, each turns away to his own world. Okay? Are you awake or are you asleep? That's what he's asking. The thinking faculty is in common to all, he goes on. So if you're awake, if you're thinking, you'll see there has to be one ordered universe that is common to all men. We live in one and the same ordered universe, with one and the same ordered laws for all, one and the same justice for all, macrocosm, microcosm. And so of the logos, there's that word we mentioned last time, of that logos, which is as I describe it, men always prove to be uncomprehending before they've heard it and once they've heard it. For although all things happen according to this logos, men are like people of no experience, even when they experience words and deeds as I explain and so forth. Well, he doesn't tell us what it is, but all things happen according to this logos. So he goes on, it's necessary to follow this common, this universal view of one ordered universe. For although the logos is in common to all, many live as though they had private understandings, those dreams in the night when they're asleep. You see? Now, if there is a universal order, if there is a universal law of reason, you see, then rational conclusions will really be, should really be the same for everybody. All in common. So listen not to me, but to the logos. You see, not to a private understanding, but to the logos, cosmic reason. It's wise to agree that all things are one. And so the logos concept emerges out of this whole theme of cosmic order and cosmic justice. Well, the subsequent passages come back to the same theme, not in those words. Look on the second page. A little over halfway down, what is in opposition is in concert. From what differs comes the most beautiful harmony. Harmony. And then war is the father of all and the king of all. That is to say, it's the clash of opposite in a process of change. which seems to underlie Nietzsche's processes. So he says, one must know that war is common, it's universal. Justice is found through strife. All things happen through strife and necessity. But in the course of time, the laws of justice love us, you see. Notice the comments he makes about Homer in the second column, about a third of the way down. Homer deserves to be thrown out of the contests and whipped. Yeah, for the virtues that he espoused. Those heroic virtues. The Greek jocks, you see. I trust that Wheaton jocks are not like Greek ones in those regards, with the wrong values. You see. The most popular teacher is Hesiod. Of him, people think he knew most. Who didn't even know day and night, but are one. He hadn't pressed into the cosmology of life. And then, towards the bottom of the column, to God all things are beautiful and good and just, but men are supposed some things to be unjust and unjust. Now, that passage has been taken two ways. One, espousing the view of God, singular, perhaps logos, that everything in the end works out right, justly. The other taking the view that this is critical of the Greek gods, who let anything go, and said, oh, that's all right. And some men have been more discerning than that, calling some things just and some unjust. Now, which way is it meant? I don't know. Okay. And then in 17 in the first column, if happiness lay in bodily pleasures, oh yeah, there were the hedonists of that day too. If happiness lay in bodily pleasures, we would call oxen happy when they find vetch to eat. Okay, Aristotle says something similar. If pleasure is the highest end of man, then I suppose you could call a healthy cabbage happy, or a pig wallowing in the stuff. You see. No, there's something more. And the next saying right after that one, it's not good for men to obtain all they wish. Then the next, sane thinking is the greatest virtue. Wisdom is speaking the truth and acting according to nature, paying heed, you see, according to the moral order of nature. So, Heraclitus, this logos concept is a fascinating one. The term, if you trace its meaning in Greek language, in antiquity, it can mean not simply a speech that's heard, an utterance. The emphasis is rather on the rationality of it. It's the word from which we get our word logic, you see. It sometimes means measure, in measuring out goods that are being sold. Balance, harmony, in harmonizing opposing influence, opposing forces, you see. In other words, it's that which gives order, value, meaning to life. I think there's an echo of that in the first chapter of John's Gospel, when John begins in Archaein ha logos, in the beginning was the logos. Meaning that in the beginning there was order, meaning to life. The logos, by whom and for whom all things were made. So, well, this is the beginning of that logos notion then in Heraclitus. Turn lastly in this, or next to lastly in this rundown, to Anaxagoras on page 41. Incidentally, you can see where Kaufman's interest is because of all those pages he puts in on Zeno's paradoxes. He really loves to play with those paradoxes having to do with cosmology and nature. He's not particularly interested in the ethical question. But turn to Anaxagoras on page 41. Now, remember, Anaxagoras was one of the pluralists who held that there were as many different elements as there are different qualities, properties. So there's a seed of this, a seed of that, a seed of all the other things that can be observed or identified. Okay? And that running through this, in order to give it order, harmony, bring an ordered world of nature into being, there is this cosmic nous, mind, intelligence, reason, however the word nous happens to be translated. Okay? Now look at the second column then on page 41. Second column, page 41. Paragraph number 11. In everything there is a portion of everything, except mind. Some things contain mind also. Okay, there's vast variety of different seeds of everything going to make up our bodies, with all the multitudinous variety of properties that various aspects of the body have. Okay. Seeds of everything. Now, in everything there is a portion of everything, but some things contain mind also. Not everything contains mind. You see. A handful of slime gives no evidence of nous. You see. But a thinking human being does. Now, just where in between you would draw the line, of course, is an interesting question. Depending whether you think of nous as simply the giving of intelligence of a conscious sort, or nous as evidenced in orderedness, okay, some ordered, cohesive unity that gives a thing identity that's distinguishable and definable, or whether you think of nous as the Greek state of soul, as that which gives life and animates, okay, in which case a hunk of iron would have no nous, but a cabbage would. So, various questions that can arise about this, but he focuses on the concept mind, nous. Now, other things, he goes on, all contain a part of everything, but mind is infinite and self-ruling, is mixed with no thing that is alone by itself. If it were not by itself, it would mix, it would have had a share of all things, if it were mixed with anything. Then he goes on further down, it is the finest of all things, the purest, has complete understanding of everything, the greatest power. All things that have life both the greater and the less, are ruled by mind. Well, they participate in mind in some way. Do they have mind in them? Or are they ruled from outside, by some external mind? Mind took command of the universal revolution. Revolution not in the sense of an overthrow of authority, but in the sense of that cosmic vortex in which everything is twisted around together, as the Greeks conceived. Okay? That primal chaos. Mind took command of that universal revolution so as to make things revolve at the outset, and then from all of that revolving mess of stuff, separates off, draws off the various ordered kinds of things into an ordered cosmos. Well, it almost sounds as if the King James translators may have read Anaxagoras. In the beginning, the earth was without form and void. And God said, and it was so. Now, I say almost. Perhaps they did. After all, King James Version was translated after the Renaissance of learning, which brought Greek thought back into the consciousness. In fact, the Roman Cicero, in his book on the nature of the gods, I alluded to it earlier, in his book on the nature of the gods, Cicero says, the first human thinker to hold that the orderly disposition of the universe is designed and perfected by the rational power of an infinite mind was Anaxagoras. Now, notice what this Anaxagoras mind does. You see. Don't say that Anaxagoras' mind is a creator. Certainly not in any Judeo-Christian sense, in which we think of creation, of course, as ex nihilo, out of nothing. No prior materials, no primal chaos, no primal glop of any sort. You see. No, rather what Anaximander's mind does is to bring order out of chaos. More of a shaper, a fashioner, an architect, than a creator bringing things into being out of nothing. But this seems to be approaching the pinnacle of how far these people go. Plato isn't satisfied with Anaxagoras. Anaxagoras knows in a number of places in his dialogues he's critical of the man, because he sees order, but he fails to see that there is purpose as well in the way things are made. Oh yes. Now, I said last time, Anaximander seems to have a teleological view, an ordered universe. Yes, but not by virtue of intelligent conscious purpose. In fact, Plato may not have a notion of intelligent conscious purpose. His concept of purpose seems to be unconscious, though intelligent. So he's criticizing Anaximander for not seeing an end-oriented natural process. Nature's process is ordered, but not ordered to achieve ends. And it's that achievement of ends that Plato is going to be concerned about, and Aristotle, and the whole medieval tradition. Well, that's the picture. Yet, there is a counterforce. You know, they say there's always opposites. Well, there's an opposite to all of this. And maybe you spotted it in your reading that the opposite is Democritus. Did you catch that? The opposite is Democritus. Yeah, Democritus has no nous, has no logos. You see? Democritus views the order of the cosmos as being a result of sheer chance, the chance conglomeration of inert particles, atoms, whirling around in a cosmic vortex, producing the particular combination of things which survived. Purely mechanistic account. So Democritus is not likely to celebrate the natural order, like the others do. Democritus is not likely to find a microcosm in the law-governed city-state. He's not likely to stress cosmic justice. And indeed, that's what you find in Democritus. If you look at page 44, middle of the second column, everything happens according to necessity. The cause of coming into being is the whirl, that cosmic vortex that he calls necessity. Things collide, become entangled, form larger substances, so on and so forth. And then in the next column, at the very bottom, first column of 45, notice this about aesthetic qualities. Sweet exists by convention. Bitter by convention. Color by convention. And when you turn to where he talks about matters of ethics on 47, the very bottom of the second column, pleasure and the absence of pleasure are the criteria of what is profitable and what is not. Or the very bottom of 48, paragraph 188, the criterion of the advantageous and disadvantageous is enjoyment, lack of enjoyment.